Hey guys, welcome back to a quick impressions video here on ARMS on the Nintendo Switch. A game that it's basically a brand new IP from Nintendo, so that alone drew a lot of interest from a lot of people, considering this is kind of like the first true Nintendo exclusive game for the Nintendo Switch, considering Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe were kind of like, available before on the Wii U system. So this is the first, I guess, full-fledged Nintendo game on the Nintendo Switch, and this is a brand new IP, so it's very interesting to always see Nintendo come up with new ideas. Now, as far as the game itself, it's a $60 game, and I know a lot of people were having doubts about picking this game up or not at that price point, and I completely understand those concerns. The game is very thin on content, so you do have to be careful with that. Myself, I came in to this game with a very low expectations as far as what the game had to offer. So I decided to buy the game on day one regardless, because for once Nintendo games almost never go down in price. So I figured might as well get the game on day one and enjoyed it with friends, because I know a lot of other friends also got this game on day one. So there is an online component to this game, so I figured let's get the game, enjoy it. And I'm really glad I did. I already put, I want to say, between 15 to 20 hours in this game, which is a lot. So my money was definitely, the money I put towards the game definitely was worth it, considering the amount of time that I put into the game. But again, buyers beware. The game is very thin on content, so I would probably recommend you guys play the game first. I don't think there's a demo available, so maybe play this game at a friend's house or something before you pull the trigger. But with that being said, myself personally, I've been very pleased with my purchase. ARMS is a very fun game that, as far as story mode, the game obviously doesn't have a story really. The game has a Grand Prix mode, which is basically you fight all the characters, or you fight the AI, each character, and then there's a final boss at the end, and that's basically it. And as far as the backstory of each character, the game doesn't really go into any detail. And in that sense, I think Nintendo kind of took a page from Overwatch, in the sense that there is a lore, there is a universe behind these characters and behind the game, but that itself is never explained in detail. So there's a lot of forums, a lot of fan sites out there with a lot of speculations about the story of each character. So that adds, in my opinion, to the charm of the game itself. Kind of like Overwatch, in the same sense. Overwatch doesn't have a story mode, or doesn't have a full-fledged explanation for each character of the game. So a lot of it is left for interpretation. But the cool thing is that there is some connection between all the characters in the game and the universe of ARMS in this case. So that's in my opinion a cool thing. But some people may think that itself is a negative thing. As far as the story, it's basically null. But as far as the graphics, that's where this game shines a lot, in my opinion. Nintendo already did a very good job in the previous generation with the Wii U. It was their first foray into HD graphics, and they did a really good job in terms of providing colorfulness to the games. When you look at games like Mario 3D World, Mario Kart 8, games like Nintendo Land, Splatoon, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, all those games are very colorful, and they just have this polish that looks really good. And the Switch, being a more powerful system, obviously will continue that trend. Nintendo already has that engine, those that physics engine basically on hold. And ARMS is a first-party developed in-house game by Nintendo, so those shiny and colorful graphics that were present in several Wii U games are back in full force here on ARMS. And the graphics, in my opinion, look great. They're very colorful, they're very polished, and they stand out the most in handheld mode, in my opinion, which I still think it's a little bit of a magical thing. Every time I play the Switch on handheld mode, it's just baffling at how beautiful and crisp the graphics are. Me being an old school guy, I played traditional handheld games since the original Game Boy came out. So for me, it's almost like voodoo magic every time I use the Nintendo Switch tablet, even though we all well know that technology has come a very long way. But nevertheless, it's hard to believe that you're playing basically the same game that's on your TV screen on your hands, and that's a really cool feeling, and I'm always having a huge smile on my face. And ARMS, it's a game that looks beautiful both on the screen and in handheld mode, but particularly in handheld mode, just because the screen is smaller and the game looks more crisp and detailed, in my opinion. Particularly on the graphics front, the character models are excellent. You can tell the different textures in their clothing. For example, Ribbon Girl, her arms, if you look at the texture of her spiral arm thing, you can tell it's made out of some kind of clothing. When you look at the same feature for another character in the game, like Kid Cobra, you can tell that his spirally arm thing is made out of snake skin, which makes sense. Kid Cobra. When you look at the same thing for Bite and Bark, which is like that police robot character in the game, you can tell it's made out of metal and things like that. So there's a lot of attention to detail that you can see in the character models that you notice that when you're playing the game, and even more so when you watch like the replay when you beat a character or something like that. Everything is very fluid, very detailed, despite the game moving at a very fast pace. Beautiful, buttery smooth 60 frames per second here. So in that regard, ARMS is a true winner. And then the stages are pretty detailed as well. As far as the sound, that's where, in my opinion, the game is a little bit of a letdown. The main theme of the game serves as like the main soundtrack. Each stage has like a remix version of the main theme of the game, and I'm not a pretty big fan of the main theme of the game itself. So usually Nintendo games have very remarkable soundtracks, but this time around, in my opinion, they dropped the ball a little bit. And in terms of voice acting, there's just like minor voice lines in here and there. There's not like a full-fledged voice acting in this game, so that's another very minor complaint in my opinion. So for the sound department, I didn't really care, and I was a little bit disappointed in that regard. Now, as far as gameplay, which is the meat and potatoes of this game, this is just a very interesting game. There's nothing like this out there. I know some people drew comparisons with Punch-Out, but in my opinion, Punch-Out is more of a pattern game where you learn the pattern of the opponent, and once you learn that pattern, you can just apply your combos, or you find the weaknesses in your opponent, and that's basically it. ARMS is way more open-ended. You have a lot of freedom to move your character around. You can dodge the attacks, and there's really no patterns to learn at all in this game. Each character has its own abilities. Each character has their own characteristics. For example, you have the Big Mummy character. He's huge and he's pretty slow, but at the same time, he's the only character that when he blocks, he can regain health. So that's one of his abilities. And each character has their own little ability. Characters like the Ninja Guy and Cobra Kid, for example, they're very quick and nimble. They can dodge attacks pretty easily, but they have other disadvantages. Ribbon Girl, for example, she can do like a small double jump and things like that. So each character has their own fighting style, which is pretty cool and adds a lot of depth to the gameplay of the game. Now, the one thing that, in my opinion, adds a ton of layers of depth is the selection of weapons that you can use for each arm. Basically, you have your right arm, your left arm, and depending on the type of weapons you choose, you can have like rockets in one arm, and then you can have like a normal punch on your other arm. And that itself adds a lot of variety. There's almost like a rock, paper, scissors element as well to it, because you can have like a heavy punch, medium punch, and light punch. And at the same time, you have elemental attributes to your attacks. For example, there are certain weapons that can freeze opponents. There are certain weapons that can shock opponents and things like that. And of course, you have your main attacks, which is you have one button press for your right arm, and then you have another button press for your left arm. If you push the two buttons at the same time, you can do a grab attack, which is pretty cool because it deals a lot of damage. But at the same time, if you happen to miss, if your opponent dodges your holding pattern, then you're basically left exposed. And this game, you can also have special attacks. You have a meter that once it fills up, you can unleash a special attack to deal a lot of damage. And yeah, several little things that add up to have a very, very in-depth gameplay. So This game, if you really want to learn, this game inside and out, it's gonna take a while for you to master all the weapons and all the moves and get comfortable with each character. So again, this is a game with a lot of depth that it's just very fun to learn. And the good news is, if you have like kids or something like that, this game also has that Nintendo, I guess, easiness to it. Anybody can pick up and play this game. It's very simple. The controls are very simple. It's just that if you want to get good at the game, or if you wanna become like a really good professional, I guess, player, if you will, you have that route. Or if you want to just play this game casually, you also have this different route where you can just mash the buttons and still have fun with the game. So in that regard, ARMS is a very broad game. Just the last point that I want to bring up is the online, which I had a lot of fun. As I mentioned, a lot of my friends here on YouTube got the game on day one, thankfully, and we were able to play this game a couple times online, and it was fun. A lot of trash talking and things like that, and it's just overall fun playing this game, both with random people and friends. Obviously, the only bad thing is, and this is not a criticism of the game itself, but a criticism of the Nintendo Switch hardware, is there's no party chat functionality. It's very hard to communicate with other people, which is a true shame. I know Nintendo is working on their application for a phone, but even then, it seems like that's a very cumbersome way of dealing with party chat. So it's unfortunate that Nintendo is behind the times when it comes to the online features. But again, that's a Nintendo Switch problem, not an ARMS problem. And also the fact that you cannot stream this game. That's another Nintendo Switch problem that I wish Nintendo would address. That it will be really nice if we can just share this like we do with the PS4 games, easily share this to YouTube so other people can watch the game. I know I would watch it because it's fun watching other people play this online and watching what their tactics are and whatnot. So in that regard, a little bit disappointed with, again, the Nintendo Switch hardware itself. But overall, to close the video, the characters in this game, that's another thing that drew me towards purchasing this game. I found the characters to be very likable. I like the variety in terms of the characters. You have your human characters and you have your crazy characters like Helix, for example. He's like this green blob. He's like supposed to be like an experiment, and it's just pretty funny to play with him. And then you have Bite and Bark, which is the robot police, and his dog companion. So a lot of funny things that that Nintendo added. And another cool thing is that Nintendo will provide free support for this game. In fact, they already announced one extra character coming up for free, which is the boss character of the game, Max Brass, I believe. So that's pretty cool that Nintendo will roll out free content, kind of like they did with the first Splatoon game on the Wii U. So that's another thing that, in my opinion, will keep the community engaged in the game for a longer period of time, instead of providing you all the content at once. So very much looking forward to all the new characters that Nintendo will add to the game, and all the new stages and other things that will come our way in the next coming months. And just finally, to close in, Nintendo did try to add a little bit of variety in terms of gameplay. There are a couple of mini games that you play in this game, such as basketball, volleyball. There's a target breaking mini game as well. And it's cool that they added those things in there. Every 2 or 3 fights, when you play the Grand Prix mode, against the AI, they make you play these mini games, which in my opinion, they add a little bit of variety to the gameplay. So that's pretty cool. And also, you get currency every time you play the game online or against the AI. You get coins in order to buy or actually earn new weapons for your characters via that target minigame. So that's another pretty cool thing. In order to fully unlock all the weapons and all the characters unlockables, it'll take a while. So if you're a completionist, this game will definitely keep you busy for a very, very long time. With that being said, it's a tough sell at $60 when you're looking at the overall package, if you will. But for myself, and I know a couple of other friends, we had a ton of fun with the game. So in my opinion, it was worth it for me. But I cannot really 100% recommend this game to you guys just like that. In my opinion, play around with it in a friend's house, or maybe test the game somewhere else and then make a final decision. But overall, I was very pleased with ARMS, a very fun game. And those are my impressions. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later.